Hi, welcome to Film Nerds. I'm your host James, and joining with me is none other than Herman.
Pleasure to be here.
You know, as of day of this recording is Mother's Day. Of course, that's not gonna be the case by the time this video comes out, but I guess I'll say happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Even though this video has nothing to do with mothers, just want to throw that out there before we get started. Um, But as y'all can tell by the title of the video, we're talking about Marvel and DC. In terms of the cinematic universe. So I guess to kick things off, let's start with Marvel. And no, let's go DC.
Okay.
You know, and and why do you feel like DC hasn't had that success as Marvel has, in the last 12, 10 years?
Well, first of all, I think DC has had some success. They've had some victories. I mean, the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I think Man of Steel was a good movie. Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, of course, Joker. They've had some victories, but they've had some severe missteps when it came to building their universe. And I think, in my opinion, their biggest issue really came from the studio itself. It came from the people that were running it. Because before Walter Hamada took over, I forget the gentleman's name that ran it before, but there were a ton of complaints about him. It seemed very clear that he only cared about uh, money as opposed to putting as opposed to putting a good product on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's the fact that the studio clash with Zack Snyder. Now, did I 100% agree with Zack Snyder's vision? No, I didn't. But I would have much rather seen his completed vision, what he originally intended people to see, as opposed to cutting him off and then bringing someone else in and then clashing Zack Snyder's vision with Joss Whedon's vision. And it just because going back and looking at some of these movies, Batman v Superman is not that bad to me. It has a lot of redeeming qualities to me. I think that, for instance, I think that Ben Affleck's Batman is very well done. I think he does a good Bruce Wayne, excellent Batman. I thought Jeremy Irons' Alfred was grossly underrated. I really wanted to see more of him, and it's kind of a shame that we won't get to see his Alfred anymore. Um, so although I'm looking forward to seeing what Andy Serkis does with it later on, but yeah, there are a lot of redeeming qualities, but there were a lot of flaws in it. And I just think that I think that the biggest issue with DC as to why, in terms of films, they're not as successful as Marvel is just lack of organization, too many hands in the pot, too many cooks in the kitchen, and at the time they just had somebody in charge that didn't care about a good product. He only cared about the bottom line and the dollar. Now, thankfully, they have somebody in charge in the form of Walter Hamada who does care about putting a good product on the screen. Because as soon as Walter Hamada took over, that's when we got Aquaman. That's when we got Shazam. That's when we got Wonder Woman. That's when we got these movies, these and Joker. So these successful movies started coming out when Walter Hamada took over because Walter Hamada is more organized. And I look forward to the other DC movies that they have coming out later on. And so I think that DC has positioned themselves to where they will have more success now because they've left a good taste in the viewer's mouth. I mean, Birds of Prey was alright, but bottom line is their movies from here lately, their movies from Wonder Woman on have been successes. And another thing that I think will play into their success is they don't seem to. It seems like they're doing what they want to do in terms of like they're not concerned about a shared universe. Marvel has their shared universe. They have the MCU. So all of their movies have to tie into the MCU. That can also be to Marvel's detriment, and I we can get into that later on. But Marvel has their MCU, their shared universe. DC started off with a shared universe. Now it seems like they don't they're not really concerned about it anymore. Um, Joker's not in the DCEU. Uh, this new Batman movie that's supposed to come out next year, I don't know if it's going to be in the DCEU. There are rumors that it might. I don't know, but it seems like they're not concerned about that. They're just concerned about, making a good movie. And what's happening is because they're concerned about a good movie as opposed to tying it into a shared universe. Now you're having a situation in which the director of Shazam can do what he wants to do. The directors and producers of Joker, they did what they wanted to do with the project. They did what they wanted to do with the characters in the story. They weren't tied and constrained to an overall narrative. They could do what they wanted to do. And so, because you gave them that freedom and you didn't constrain them, you didn't restrict them, you let them do what they want to do, now we have success. Because, once again, another reason why the past DCEU movies weren't that good, reason why Suicide Squad was not that good, it's not because the director's a flawed director. He has gone on record in multiple interviews. He said the movie that was released was not the movie that I wanted to make. But the studio came in, they interfered, they put their hands on his project, they started tearing things up. And as a result, the movie that we got is not the movie that he wanted to do. You let those directors, within reason, have their creative freedom. And so now we're having successes with DC. So, back to the main point, I think that, the biggest issue that DC had was lack of organization and too many cooks in the kitchen. But now I think they're starting to straighten and iron themselves out. And I think that they're setting themselves up for success down the line because their concern, it seemed, at least to me, it looks like their concern and their primary objective now is making the best possible movie they can for right now. And then it's one movie at a time. And I think if they keep on with that type of perspective, they're going to continue to have success down the line.
Yeah, because I feel like I kind of feel like DC doesn't have a one of the reasons why they haven't been so successful like Marvel is because I don't think they had a clear goal in mind or where they wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, it just felt like Marvel is doing this and they're making money. We have to capitalize and do what they're doing. But they try to do what they're doing without understanding how and what they did for them to get to that point. Because we look at the Marvel universe. Every character, of course, was introduced and built up, and the story was expanded upon. We didn't get that in over there in DC. We got Men of Steel. Then also we got Wonder Woman. No, wait, Wonder Woman came
after. So you had Man of Steel, then you had Batman v Superman. Yeah, Wonder Woman came after that. So.
Yeah, so it felt like they just started throwing things together just to say yes, we have a shared universe too. But they didn't do anything to polish and establish the universe before they started creating a shared universe. It's like, oh well, we have all the characters. We just go through introduce all the characters, into one movie and call it a day. And as by the time we got to do Justice League, everything falls apart because now we have the characters that no one will ideally we care about, but in regards to the universe, we don't care about because we don't know anything about these characters.
Yeah, and to expound upon your point, the MCU's version of some of these characters, so some of the Marvel superheroes that are in the MCU, they're not identical to their comic counterparts. They're not the same. Some of them are very, very different. This Spider-Man that we have in MCU is not the same as the comic version of Peter Parker. This version of Captain America is different. This version of Tony Stark's different. They have differences. But what one of Marvel's best strengths was the fact that they allowed the audience to your point, as you were saying, by introducing the characters, expounding upon the characters. You let the audience get to know the characters.
Mm-hmm.
You let the audience decide whether or not they like this character, grow attached to the character, and then you put them in that ensemble film. I don't think that Ezra Miller's a bad Flash, but I think that if you gave him his own standalone film, let the audience really get used to him, see him in action, really see what he can do. Not just little cameo scenes in other movies, but actually give him a full film with a narrative, so in the characterization, so that fans of the comics can look at this version of the Flash and be like, okay, I see what you're doing. It may not be the comic version that I'm used to, but I see what you're doing here. You give them a movie. Let them decide whether or not they want to board that train with this character. See, and that's something that Marvel did that DC didn't, and that's one of the biggest reasons why their Justice League did not work. Superman got his own movie. Batman, as great as Ben Affleck was, and he was great, Batman was shoved into a movie he didn't need to be in. The Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they all got cameos and they were shoved into this movie. And a movie that was actually supposed to be a sequel to Man of Steel that ended up, that turned into some convoluted, this big convoluted team up movie that didn't work because, once again, you have to let the audience see these characters. You have to expound upon these characters. You have to give these characters some type of footing, some type of foundation before you put them together with somebody else. And that's one of the strengths, that's one of Marvel's strengths that DC clearly, I'm not going to say they didn't understand it. I'm going to say they thought that they could skip it. They thought they could skip that step. And that's, no. You can just because you put a lightning bolt on his chest doesn't mean everybody's gonna like that Flash. Just because you put a trident in his hand doesn't mean we're gonna like that Aquaman. You have to let the audience get acclimated and decide whether they do that, and you do that with standalone films. And my final point: some characters don't necessarily need standalone films. Black Widow didn't get hers until now. Hawkeye don't need one. Certain characters, in DC, certain characters don't need it. Their main six or their main five, I forget how many members of the Justice League there are. Those core members, they do need their own standalone films.
Yeah,
because those are big DC characters, and they need their own films. But if you wanted to enter, like Cyborg doesn't need his own movie. Cyborg can piggyback off of somebody else, like what they've been doing with the Hulk. You can build his narrative within someone else's movie. But bottom line, I'm not gonna say that they didn't understand what Marvel was doing. They were impatient. They wanted to
catch up.
They wanted to reap the rewards that Marvel was raking in at the time, but they wanted to skip the hard work, and they wanted to skip the time and the effort that it took for Marvel to get there.
Yeah.
They wanted to skip that and jump to the finish line without running a race, and it doesn't work like that. And they crashed and burned. Now they've got their own rhythm going, which is cool. Now they have their own rhythm going, and I look forward to the movies that they're going to put out in the future. But yeah, no, you look at Marvel. Marvel had a plan, and they followed through with that plan. And they had a lot of trial and error. Let's not forget, Kevin Feige was a producer on that daggone Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. There's trial and error.
Yeah.
But they learned their lesson, and they built and built and built and built, and the success came from being patient, looking at the big picture, and then measuring 3 times, cutting once, because that's how Kevin Feige is, and that's not what DC did.
Yeah, because like you stated with the whole trial and error thing with Marvel, like Marvel didn't automatically start and like through the whole tease the whole future in one movie. Of course, we got that in Iron Man, but before Iron Man, it was the Incredible Hulk, Daredevil, Elektra, you know, and none of the movies really teased, future movies in a shared universe, so to say, whatnot, And I feel like not only DC, but with a whole lot of other studios trying to come up with their own Marvel, type universe, is
Hmm.
they have this movie, and the whole purpose of this movie is to create a universe, you
Yeah,
know.
and yeah, and actually, I think that's to speak on that. I think that may be one of Marvel's weaknesses to me,
Mhm.
because one thing that I didn't like, and this is something I don't like about Marvel. Really, it's two things. Some movies that they make, the really it feels like, I'm not saying that this is what it is, but it just feels like the purpose of this movie is just to drive the overall MCU narrative forward. Basically,
Mhm.
all it is filler for the movie that'll come out next year. And that's not satisfying as a viewer, because if I'm going to buy a ticket, I want to enjoy the experience. I don't want to just sit there and just feel indifferent about the movie. And literally, the only reason why I'm sitting in the theater is just for the cutscene at the very end.
Mhm.
That's not. I want to have a complete movie experience. I want to have a movie that has a solid beginning, middle, and end. And while and I want that end credit scene, let that be the dessert. That's great. That's cool that you have it. But I want to enjoy the film that I came here to see. Be satisfied with what I came to see, and then let the end credit scene be the cherry on top. Don't make me sit through something that's not worth my time or money just for this end credit scene.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of MCU movies that fit that bill. Thor: The Dark World is
Mhm.
one. I'm gonna say that Ant-Man and the Wasp is one. I think that Iron Man 2 is one. Um, and the thing about some of these movies, and earlier when I said that the MCU having that shared universe, it could be to their detriment. This is why, because John Favreau, when he first made Iron Man, the first Iron Man, wonderful movie, great movie. Paramount was pressuring him because they wanted another one. We need another Iron Man. We need another Iron Man. So Favreau was like, okay, I'm going to work on it. Favreau and those producers' original vision for Iron Man is not what we got.
Mhm.
Um, his version of Iron Man 2, and I'm gonna try to keep this as concise as possible. He was going to show a flawed Tony Stark, that and he was also going to show that Tony Stark's father was flawed. He was going to show a Tony Stark that wanted to change and learn from the mistakes of his father's own selfishness and greed. Some of that was shown, but it wasn't expounded upon in the film, because that's not what Kevin Feige and that's not what Marvel wanted. Marvel wanted an action movie, an action oriented movie that could get us over the hump to the next thing. That's what they wanted, because they needed this movie to serve the overall MCU plot. That's what they needed.
Mhm.
Which is why when you look at Iron Man 2, when Nick Fury comes in, and literally the only reason why Nick Fury is there is just for exposition dump. So he comes in, he sits with Tony Stark. He's like, oh, well, Anton Vanko, he just has this one line drop where it's like, yeah, Anton Vanko was trying to steal ideas from your dad, so your dad had him deported. The entire beginning of the film, Mickey Rourke's character, his Vanko was the other side of the coin for Tony Stark, but it shows that what they wanted to do was, like, every action has a consequence, and because of the consequences of your father's actions, you ruin someone else's life.
Mhm.
And I wanted to see that. I wanted to see Tony Stark really go up against Anton Vanko, and Anton Vanko bring him to task, because it was great, the scene where Tony Stark and Vanko sitting in that prison room, and Tony Stark comes to see him, and Vanko basically says, and I'm paraphrasing, "You think that just because you had a change of heart and you blew up a couple of bombs, that's going to make up for the years and years and years of destruction and ruin that your family has brought down upon other people. You think that just because you did this little thing here, that's going to just automatically fix everything."
Mhm.
I wanted to see that narrative expounded upon. That's what Jon Favreau wanted to do, but they didn't let him because they're a slave. This is a little tough, but in many ways they're a slave to that overall MCU narrative, and that would have dragged and pulled away from that narrative that they're trying to be focused on. So,
because I also see them open up a lot more about doing those type of things as we see with Black Panther, and the little later on Marvel movies, whatnot.
Yeah, they're definitely learning from their mistakes.
Because in the beginning, yes, Marvel Universe they came off very problematic, whatnot. Like, and it was no like it wasn't no depth to no. It was just action movies. The movies that got you to the next movie. Know, but I am glad that they are, for the most part, going away from that formula and allowing directors, for the most part, be a little more creative. I mean, of course, they still have to stick by, certain guidelines, but I feel like they do have a lot more leeway to expand upon different story elements, character elements in the movies.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm starting to see DC do, because I noticed, and I'm going to use this as an example, when James Gunn signed on to do their Suicide Squad movie. Now, when James Gunn was initially fired from Disney, there were a lot of studios that wanted him. I think Paramount wanted him to do a Star Trek movie. Universal wanted him to do something for him. He was in high demand because he took that unknown property in Marvel and turned it into a certified hit in Guardians of the Galaxy. So they're like, "Oh, we want you to do our space movies." And so DC came to him and they're like, "We want you." And he signed on. He was like, "Okay, I want to do Suicide Squad, and I want full creative control. I don't want any studio interference. You need to let me make my movie. And if you want me to come on, those are my terms." Warner Brothers agreed. They were like, because Walter Hamada was now in charge. And he was like, "Done deal. Do what you want to do with it." And what I'm noticing about DC, they're not afraid to make the R-rated movies. Now, look, I'm not saying make an R-rated movie just for the sake of making an R-rated movie. Don't just sit up here and throw in arbitrary boobs in the F word just because, oh, we want to make it R, because that's gonna no.
Yeah.
If you have a legitimate reason to make the movie R, make the movie R. Like, for instance, the Joker movie, you had a legitimate reason.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey, you had a legitimate reason.
For Suicide Squad, should have been rated R.
It should have been because of the subject matter.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, this Suicide Squad movie may be rated R because James Gunn realizes what he's dealing with. But the overall point is DC is letting their directors do their thing. And Marvel, to a certain extent, they're doing that too. Because especially with Black Panther, allowing Ryan Coogler to include certain real life modern political elements be in that movie and how they worked. It's hit and miss sometimes. It doesn't always work, but allowing the directors to do what they want to do to a certain extent is a good thing. Marvel is letting them do that. They still are keeping these directors under a leash, but it's not as tight a leash as it was some years ago. So, yeah.
And I do hope that Marvel continues down that path, even though I do understand why they keep that leash, because they're trying to tell a certain story or at least a certain journey, storyline, and considering that you are using different directors, I can understand why you had to, tell, hey, this is where we going, whatnot. This is what we would like to have done, But with DC, like, to me, I feel like now they're going with a route where they're not. Like I said before, they're not doing a shared universe, so to say. It's just a collective of movies, and I can dig that. Just as long as you don't come along that line and try to create a universe, and put pieces together, and now leave everybody like, okay, I thought, you know, this is this and this is that,
Yeah.
like as long as they, going about with the knowledge that okay, it's not really a extended universe, but it's just a collection of movies.
I think it's a little retconny, but I think something that DC may try to do with their Flash movie.
Mhm.
I think they may try to Flashpoint it. And what I mean is they may try to use
Otherwise,
the Flash's ability to fix their because
otherwise they're pulling 8 days to push the pass.
yeah, because I read an article that apparently DC, I didn't know that a Supergirl movie was in the works, but apparently one was. That they have shifted their focus. They're no longer focused on Supergirl, and they're going back to Superman. So they want to make a Superman movie because one thing a lot of people didn't like this part was how dark uh, Zack Snyder's version of Superman was.
Mhm.
I understood why he went that route. I don't think his Superman was dark. I think his Superman was realistic. Um, you're talking about an alien in today's society with the powers that he has, and I think that Zack Snyder was. And this is I don't normally pay Zack Snyder too many compliments. He has angered me with his vision, but I will give him his due credit. I think he was building up to the more positive version of
Mhm.
Superman. I think he was getting there. He was gonna get you there, but but what and I appreciate about what I appreciate this about Zack Snyder. He wasn't just going to give it to you. This isn't Christopher Reeve's Superman of the 1970s.
Mhm.
You're not just going to automatically fly into a city and everybody's just going to accept you because you're wearing a bright suit and you have all these powers. No, there's trial and error. There, people are going to look at you strange. The government is automatically going to view you as a threat, which is exactly what happened. There's going to be collateral damage. People are going to die, especially when you're going up against somebody that has the same powers as you, and they don't care about life. So, what I give him his due credit for what he did in Man of Steel, and I thought that it was completely unfair that people badmouthed his Superman movie and came down on his Superman movie, but we gave the Avengers movie a pass. Like them aliens didn't kill hundreds and thousands upon thousands of people in that final battle in New York. Like New York, way more damage than Metropolis. I mean, let's be real. So I thought that it was unfair, the level of criticism that was leveled against him for his Superman movie. I thought his Man of Steel was a very good Superman movie. He did things with Superman that just were not done before and were beautifully done. He's a very visual director. Taking the audience to Krypton to see what Krypton looked like before it was destroyed. His version of General Zod not being concerned about people worshiping him, but the only thing he cared about was the preservation of his people, because that old saying, every villain is the hero of their own story. Zod genuinely thought he was doing a good thing. Uh, his version of Clark Kent, his version of Lois Lane, I liked everything that he did in this Superman movie. And again, to get to that central point, he was gonna get you there. At least in my opinion, I think he was gonna get you to that brighter, more optimistic, like all-star Superman that everybody loves. He was gonna get you there, but he's showing you the journey, like the journey that this person takes in order to get to that point of belovedness and everybody loves me and okay, I'm gonna show you how he gets there. So I appreciated that about Zack Snyder's vision. Is just he got a lot of he was criticized a lot about it.
Yeah. In that regards, I can. I can I can see where we're going, and I would agree in a standpoint where it's like you don't want to. Well, as a writer and a director, I can understand, well, especially using characters from another property that you should, like you don't want to give everybody, the finished product up front,
Mm-hmm.
because like it's all about that character arc,
Mm-hmm.
like he's not Superman in the beginning of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he has become Superman,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like as in we look at in Christopher Nolan movies, like he doesn't start off as the Dark Knight,
Mm-hmm.
or he later becomes the Dark Knight,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's all about that journey that takes you from learning on, like, becoming the guy that everyone knows him to be,
Mm-hmm.
like in that regards, like I could get that,
Mm-hmm.
it just unfortunately we got Batman vs Superman as a sequel,
Yeah.
which kind of uh uh ruined everything that he may have been trying to do with the character,
Yeah. I think, and just to touch on this, because Batman v Superman is where Zack Snyder lost me.
hmm
And what I mean by that is, why are you taking a middle-aged version of Batman in order to start the Justice League with?
yes,
And I always had that issue. I understand that you love the Dark Knight Returns version of Batman. It's great. It's one of the
hmm
greatest Batman stories ever written. Frank Miller is a genius for it. Wonderful. But that version of Batman, you don't build a universe around that version of the Batman. You
yeah,
don't do that. And I say that for multiple reasons. Number one, that Batman is an Elseworld story. That is not in the main continuity of the DC universe. That is an Elseworlds version of Batman, which is why he has the Carrie Kelly Robin and all this other. Frank Miller has stated that's an Elseworlds Batman. That's not in main continuity. That is a possible future, which makes it Elseworlds. Number two, from a studio standpoint, we're talking about franchising multiple movies,
hmm
three, four, five, six, 7 movies. And you're asking me as the studio to put this on the shoulders of somebody who's already 44, 45, and we
yeah,
haven't even begun shooting the movie yet. I don't know how old Ben Affleck was when it started. I want to say he was maybe 42, 43, something like that.
something like that.
Somewhere in that ballpark. That's still very old. You're talking about a movie that takes a minimum of a year to get the principal photography and the core shooting done. So it could take any, and that's in my honest opinion, I think that's a good timeline. That's a productive timeline
hmm
for a big budget superhero film. You get a full year to do your principal photography, your core shooting, and then you can get on to editing, which could take up to a year in and of itself.
yeah,
And then before you can even begin shooting, you have costume preparation, makeup, set designs, booking locations. All of this you already know as being a filmmaker yourself. So much goes into this before an actor even steps on set and shoots a scene.
yeah.
And you want to build this on a 42, 43-year-old man?
Yeah, he's 47 right now. So that was back in 2016.
Batman v Superman was 2016, which means they probably hired him to be Batman. I'd say 2014.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So yeah, roughly like, I don't know, 40,
40,
43, 43, something like that. Yeah, no, that's not smart. Okay, I can't, as a studio, because look, by the time we're finished with the first movie, he's gonna be like 45. Okay, and we're trying to build multiple movies around this. That's not smart.
no,
He's gonna age. I need somebody. That's why people can't stand it. But I give Sony their due credit for hiring Tom Holland to play Nathan Drake, because they're like, we're trying to build a franchise around this. He's young. He's
Yeah.
like 22, 23 years old. We can get multiple movies out of him. And we can't do that with a Ben Affleck. So why you would use that version? It's like something about Christopher Nolan's Batman. His version of Batman was an amalgam of multiple versions. He borrowed elements from different stories. He borrowed from The Long Halloween. He borrowed from No Man's Land. He borrowed from The Dark Knight Returns. He borrowed from The Killing Joke in order to create his Batman universe. You could have did that, but to just take this version,
Yeah.
I was that like I said, to get to get back to the main point. That's when me and Zach kind of went like this, and we split because I was like, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And especially looking at it from as a Batman character standpoint, why would you take a aging Batman
Mm-hmm.
and put him on a team of gods? You know, and now you want him to pretty much stand out in a room with gods. You know, and it'll be hard. Like everyone looking like, okay, what can you do? You know,
Yeah.
like you're not the same Batman as you was in the beginning. You know,
That's why I'm very much looking forward to this upcoming Batman movie, Matt Ryan's version, because what Matt Ryan has consistently been saying about his version of Batman, he's saying, I'm going to focus on Batman as a detective. I'm going to focus on his intelligence. I'm not going to focus on his gadgets. I'm not going to focus on a bunch of. That's not to say you're not going to see him fight, but the main focus of his Batman is going to be showing Batman's skills as a detective. Because to your point, putting him on a team of gods at his age, he has to be able to bring something to the table other than money, which is, it felt like that's all he was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Batman as a Justice League member, he's arguably the most intelligent member on the team. He has contingency plans for everybody. He's the only human, and yet everyone fears him because of his mind. That was never conveyed on the screen with Ben Affleck's Batman. And I love Ben Affleck's Batman, but that wasn't conveyed.
Yeah. Just like in like he doesn't there's nothing about him that makes like everybody else like wow, this is Batman. You know, we should respect and feel this guy, and he belongs to be a part of us. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing that he do or portrays that allows them to perceive him as such a threat.
Yeah.
You know, yes, he's brutal, whatnot, but he's only brutal to, you know.
So's a Marine that's had a couple of drinks in his system.
Yeah.
You look on the you look on the flip side with Marvel, with their individual films. You see why Captain America is the leader of the Avengers. He has that ability to lead people. You saw that with the first Captain America movie. You see why Iron Man is on the team. Because it's not just because Iron Man provides the money. It's because of his mind. He's one of the most intelligent minds on the planet. You see why he's there. You see why Thor is here. His brother was a threat to Earth, and he came in order to stop his brother. And as a result, he joined that team because he couldn't do it by himself. And the point I'm trying to make is Kevin Feige and Joss Whedon organically put that team together. And they all had a reason. They all needed one another. There's a reason why he's here. There's a reason why she's here. There's a reason why they're here. There's a reason why everybody had to come together. And it worked. It was cohesive. It meshed together. And everybody had a purpose. And that was not conveyed with the Justice League movie. I believe Zack Snyder had a vision. I believe that in Zack Snyder's vision, all the characters had a purpose. I want to believe that, which is why I hope his version of Justice League does get released on HBO Max when HBO Max goes live. Whenever I don't know when that's going to happen, but I hope that we get to see his vision realized. But fact of the matter is, that's not what we got.
Yeah, I also felt like it was doomed from the start. Like especially looking at Batman, at Batman v at Batman v Superman, how he used the Dark Knight Returns storyline and Doomsday storyline, and we all know that Doomsday killed Superman. You know, so already you killing Superman already, like, like, like you introducing the league. How can you kill Superman? Right now.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, that didn't make no sense. So already I know in next movie he coming back somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and when he comes back, it feels like to me it didn't feel like a Justice League team. It felt like Superman and the boys. You know, because pretty much he comes back. Well, pretty much they're all like, we need Superman. You know, we can't do this without Superman. You know, oh Superman, we need Superman. Let's go revive Superman. You know, and and the whole only reason why as the Avengers, the reason they form a team is because by themselves, none of them is strong enough to stop the Force. You know, at hand. But in the movie, Superman pretty much does everything by himself. Like, why do he need to be on the team?
Yeah, because you cheapen the death. Because I'm going to use this as an example. DC's animated universe, the DCAU, their universe, which just ended with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which was a phenomenal movie. Like when I say I paid the full $20 for that movie. I did not want to buy it, but it was worth every penny. The movie is like that. But they built you to that point. First of all, this universe redid Death of Superman. They made a Death of Superman movie that came out, I want to say maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. But they built up to that. Because you're talking about over the course of 13 years and 7 or 8 movies where you got used to this version of Superman and this version of the Justice League. And then they did Death of Superman. And then they did Rise of the Supermen, which was the sequel showing the multiple Supermen that came up out of nowhere before the real Superman was resurrected. So they built to that point. Switch over to Marvel. Marvel, you have Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. You do the Avengers. You introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy. You introduce other movies, Ant-Man and all these other characters. And then we get Infinity War. And then in Infinity War, after you've built this universe up, after we've gotten Doctor Strange and Black Panther and Spider-Man and the Guardians and the core members and this, that, and the third, that's when you start killing people. And I'm going to be completely honest. When I walked out of the theater of Infinity War, I knew some of these characters were going to come back. I did not know if all of them were going to come back. And furthermore, I didn't know who was going to come back. I felt like, well, they got to bring Spider-Man back because they just brought him in. You know, he's a breadwinner. He's a moneymaker. I know they signed Tom Holland for movies, and they got to bring Black Panther back because you know they just brought him into the MCU, and I know that they have plans for him, but I don't know. Maybe they might not. See, even though naturally common sense tells you Marvel's going to bring most of these characters back. They left that ambiguity because they built these characters up over the course of years. You don't know what is going to happen. I legitimately didn't know what Endgame was going to look like. I didn't know what was going to be in that movie. I didn't know how they were going to bring them back. I had no idea, and it made it so freaking exciting for me. There was negative zero doubt in my mind that Superman was coming back in Justice League. I had no doubt. He was coming back. That did nothing. That did absolutely nothing. Why you introduced Doomsday in this movie and killed him when we all know you're going to bring him back? There was no point. You cheapened the death. It meant nothing. It meant absolutely nothing. What Lois Lane is crying for nothing. His mother's crying for nothing. The funeral scene is for nothing because it means nothing. We know he's coming back. Now, if you did a Death of the Superman movie, maybe like, I'd say 3, 4, 5 films down the road, if you decided we're going to do that, okay. But as your second movie, when literally the movie before is when you first introduced this Superman, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
It makes no sense story-wise. You know, like we haven't well, especially as we're talking about how he hasn't officially fully became Superman yet. Like we could kill him before we even build a strong enough bond to him, and like I like even though I never really been a big Superman fan, I'm pretty sure in the Death of Superman storyline, the whole world feels the effects of Superman because he's an icon. In the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, he hasn't yet reached that standpoint yet.
Yeah,
like you kind of see him slowly becoming that, but he hasn't. He's not that pillar of hope yet. You know?
And I noticed that Zack. And here's the thing about it. I saw that Zack Snyder was building towards that.
Mm-hmm.
There, the scene, the Superman had the statue where Superman's going around the world saving people, or the family during the flood that looked up and saw Superman looking down at him. I saw that Zack Snyder was building towards that. I could see it. That's why I want to see his finished vision, because I could see that. But his misstep, bringing in Doomsday and killing Superman, that's a monumental character. That's a monumental story that you could have used. That is an ace in the hole that you could use later.
Yeah.
Like me, if I'm and I'm not a screenwriter, but if you had me in a room and you're like, okay, because here's the thing, if you used the DC characters right, you could crush Marvel if you used them correctly. You could make a Justice League movie and then make a couple of films and then make a Justice League 2, and then you could add the Death of Superman story in there. You could add Doomsday in there as a threat.
Yeah.
You could kill Superman at the end of a Justice League movie and it would have more impact. Number one, because he's had multiple movies under his belt. He's been established. He has that foundation. You built him. The fans now like him. And another reason why I didn't agree with what he did in terms of Superman. Beautiful thing about Iron Man, there is no actor who played him before Robert Downey Jr. Beautiful thing about Captain America, yeah, there was, I guess, a TV movie or or a couple of things that came before.
Yeah, but they don't count.
Nobody knows. Chris Evans is the face.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. is the face. Chris Hemsworth is the face of Thor. Chadwick Boseman is the face of Black Panther. Brie Larson is the face of Captain Marvel. And even Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Granted, there were two that came before. But you introduced him in Civil War. He got his own solo movie. And then you brought him into Infinity War. And you didn't kill him until the very end. So he had two movies under his belt before you killed him. And then, of course, you brought him back. But my point is, with Superman, number one, he's arguably the most iconic superhero ever made. He's the granddaddy of all superheroes. So that's number one. Number two, when you have somebody as iconic as a Christopher Reeves, who has played Superman before, for 4 movies, literally when people think about Superman, that man's face is what hits their heads.
Yeah.
And yeah, you had the Brandon Ruth and the Superman Returns. Okay, no. With this, you have to establish him. You have to have that foundation. You have to let this Superman stand on his own. You gotta do that. It's imperative. And Zack Snyder he didn't let the Superman have enough time to stick.
No.
Because Henry Cavill literally looked like Superman ripped off of the comic page. I remember when they first released a still image of him in the Superman suit, and like he was breaking out of a safe or something, and I was like, oh my God, he looks amazing. He looks phenomenal as Superman. I couldn't wait to see him as Superman. But you didn't give him enough time to stick. Let that image stick in the mind of the viewer so that we can get off the Christopher Reeves train for a little bit and jump onto this one.
Yeah.
You didn't do that. And that's and that was a very big problem to me. Killing him off in the second movie when you didn't give him enough time to shine. Iron Man had 3 movies before he got stabbed in the chest by Thanos. Captain America had his solo film. He had Civil War, multiple other. Marvel gave their flagship characters the chance to shine before they temporarily brought them down.
Yeah.
You didn't do that with Superman, right? So,
Cause like it feels like DC was banking on the fact of, yes, he's a household name. We know Superman. We know uh these characters that just automatically could be a connection to him. But no, like even though yes, we have a connection to Superman and Batman from the comics and from past movies, we don't have a connection with this Superman because this Batman is not that Batman and Superman, and so on. Like so, you still have to build up that character, and because even though like everybody gonna have the different views and inter- and interpretations of each character, which makes these characters unique, from movie to movie, from director to director, writer to writer, is as a fan, the audience, to get to know this particular creation of this same old character. As you were saying with Matt Reeves on focusing on the intellect, intelligence on this Batman. It's something that we haven't really gotten in past Batmans. Because with Ben Affleck's Batman, we get the more brutal, Batman. With Christopher Nolan, we get the more uh the psychological standpoint of Batman, and so on and so on and so on. Like it's actually like which is I guess is a not really a problem, but it becomes like an issue. We take characters from paper and turn it into put on film. You can't take every single aspect of every character and make it stick on film. Sadly,
yeah, but you can take some. You can take the best parts.
Yes.
And what I like about the MCU is, in my opinion, I think they took the best parts of the characters, and they did that. They did their own thing with them, but they took the best parts. And I remember I heard somebody talk about this. What the MCU did is they took the Marvel characters and they didn't try to make the world fit around them. They took those characters and they brought them in our world, and they made those characters fit in our world. They adapted them to our world. And then as we got more used to them, they got more experimental. The costumes got a little more colorful, got a little brighter. We got a little more out there. We got the Guardians of the Galaxy. Then we got Doctor Strange. They got a little more experimental. We have the Eternals coming at the end of this year. But they were able to get there because they earned the audience trust, because they focused on characterization rather than grand scale and getting the money. They're focused on the characters.
And on that standpoint, like how they took the characters and brought it into our world. So when we get to characters like Doctor Strange and how it's kind of strange, things that he do and deals with the magic, it has to go back and reflects on us. Like, wow, how crazy is this for a guy like this living in our world? So now we kind of put ourselves in the movies into like the other characters and humans and stuff in the world, looking at this stuff like, wow, this is nuts, like, which goes back to how wonderful and a good job that they done with these movies, and it gives me hope for Marvel's future as we move into Phase 4. Whenever we can get there, due to this whole coronavirus.
Now, I will give DC this. I am looking forward to their future as well.
Me too.
Because they do have a Justice League Dark coming to HBO Max. They have a Green Lantern series coming to HBO Max. Both of these are live action. They do have the Batman movie coming. They have the Suicide Squad movie coming. They have Wonder Woman 2 coming at the end of this year. They have Aquaman 2 coming. They have Shazam 2 coming. And they have finally, oh, they've been talking about this for years. They finally began production on their Black Adam movie with The Rock. It was one of them things where it started to feel like an urban legend, like like Bigfoot, The Chronic, and Black Adam. All of these were projects that have been discussed for years and never came to fruition, but they have finally begun production. So I'm very hopeful for DC's future, and I think that DC has a bright future ahead of them. Number one, because of who they have in charge. They have a Kevin Feige figurehead in Walter Hamada who has a good head on his shoulders, very organized, and it feels like things are coming in succession and they're coming in order, and he's building he has his building blocks, and brick by brick he's trying to earn everybody's trust back in terms of DC, and that's a good thing. Because I will say this, on the TV side, DC has been owning it. I don't like all of their shows. Not a fan of Batwoman. Supergirl lost me. Uh, we're not getting into Arrow. I like I like Black Lightning. I do. I haven't seen Stargirl yet, but a lot of people like Stargirl. Uh, Titans is trash, but Swamp Thing was good. What was the other one? There was the
Patrol, Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol.
Yeah,
Doom Patrol was very good. Doom Patrol, man, that had some solid writing. The Doom Patrol had some solid writing. I mean, that I was genuinely shocked by how good Doom Patrol was. And I believe they're working on the season 2 of Doom Patrol because for some reason they haven't dropped Titans yet. I don't know why. You need to let that go. Show sucks, but okay, you want to hold on to it. Listen, Doom Patrol is good. Black Lightning is good. The Flash, I think, is still going strong. I haven't been on it in a long time.
I kind of gave up on the CW shows. I was attempting to catch up on Arrow because I started watching after season 6, I think it was. So I watched season 7. I got about 9 episodes in, and I'm like, you know what? I can't do this no more.
Now, I will say this. Switch back to Marvel. Marvel was competing heavy with their Netflix shows. I don't give a dang about Agents of Shield, but with their Marvel shows, Daredevil remains the best superhero show I have ever seen. There is not, I can't think of a single live action superhero show that can touch Daredevil. Daredevil was phenomenal.
It was.
The Punisher was good. I enjoyed both seasons of The Punisher. I enjoyed the first half of the first season of Luke Cage and a little bit of season 2. I could not get through Jessica Jones. And Iron Fist was a complete and utter travesty. But Daredevil, Punisher, and the first half of Luke Cage, great. Great, great, great. But just back to the central point. On the TV side, DC is owning it over Marvel. I'm gonna give a W to DC over Marvel in terms of their TV shows because DC is they're killing it. They had the Young Justice thing going. They had of course their live action stuff. So yeah, just with the movie side, it's starting to catch up. The movie side is getting in order, and I think DC's future is very, very bright. Marvel's future, of course, is super bright. I mean, they snatching up A-list actors left and right. I cannot wait to see what Mahershala Ali looks like as Blade. That is going to be phenomenal. That is going to be phenomenal. Yes. I can't wait. Man, oh man, oh man.
And, I can't wait. Especially if they do the guns and make it rated R.
They probably won't. Because it is the MCU.
I don't know. There are talks about making a rated R Punisher.
There are talks, but I will say Marvel can't do anything with the Punisher at least until 2022. From what I understand, because Netflix locked them in that deal, they can't do anything with Daredevil, Luke Cage, the Punisher, or Jessica Jones, or Iron Fist until I think it was like a 2 to 5 year deal. They can't do anything with them. So honestly, right now, I don't even think Marvel is thinking about Punisher right now. I will say this, just to touch on this. You can make a gritty Blade film without making it rated R. And what I say, and when I say that, what I'm saying is to people that are listening, I understand that Blade is not Spider-Man. He's not Captain America. He's a very dark character. He's a gritty character. That doesn't mean you have to make his movie rated R. You don't have to. You can make a quality Blade film and not have it rated R. Because let's not forget, even in the original Blade films, when he would stake the vampires, they would just turn into animated ash. We're not talking about a bunch of blood, organs, and gore flying all over the place. No, he would stake them, they would burn and turn into ash. That's not rated R violence. That's like PG-13 violence. You can still do that. And you can still make a good movie with Blade and make it rated PG-13. You can still do it. You just have to. Number one, you have to have a good writer. You have to have a good production team. You already have a good actor. So, like, some of your battle, not all of it, some of your battle is won because you got Mahershala Ali in the role. Get a good director, get a good production team, and you get a good script. Focus on Blade as a character, developing him as a character. You have that good story. And then, in my opinion, and no doubt, I believe you agree with me. You have a good character, and you focus on that story, and then you focus on everything else after those two things. You set. As long as you have a good character, you have a good story. You can put some blood in there. I mean, they are vampires. I mean, let's be serious. Morbius is going to be rated PG-13.
Yeah.
Morbius ain't gonna be, and Morbius he is a vampire. He needs to feed on humans, and they're gonna rate that PG. And I don't know if the movie's gonna be good, but I mean, the fact that I just the point is,
it's Jimmy Little. No, he's a hit and miss.
Yeah, and then Ryan Reynolds, he's in quarantine, but they've been talking to him. Deadpool is coming back, so I don't know what they're gonna do with him because now I will. While I say you can make a PG-13 Blade film, you can't. You can't make a PG-13 Deadpool. I don't know how you can do that. Like, the only thing I can think of that they can do, if you want to, like, the absolute tamest you can do, is like maybe like you can just have him pop up in other Marvel movies here and there. That's the only thing I can. But if you give him his own movie, you can't rate it PG-13. You can't.
Nah.
He's just too out of control. But other than that, Marvel's future's bright. DC's future's bright. Both of them have bright futures, so long as they stay on their individual paths. DC, keep doing what you're doing. Focus on a movie at a time. Just do one movie at a time. Marvel, they already have their plan in place. You stick with you stick to the script. You keep doing what you're doing. You have your Kevin Feige has been doing this by 5-year plans. You have your movies planned out for the next 5 years, so you focus on those. And another thing that I like about Kevin Feige, he does not let these fans deter him from the plan.
Yeah. Because
as soon as they got that 20th Century deal, oh man, oh Lord, every single news and comic book news website, oh man, but this X-Men character is going to pop up. How are they going to introduce the X-Men or the Fantastic Four? And Kevin Feige sitting back, and what I love, when they interviewed Kevin Feige, he said, we have those characters now. We have them. And he said the beautiful thing is we have them. We're not in a rush to bring them in yet. They're not a part of the plan yet.
Yeah.
It's just cool that we have them. So now Kevin Feige, he's sitting back and he's taking his time. And he's like, all right, well, This 5-year plan doesn't include them yet. The next 5-year plan might. So
I don't think he's lying.
I
You know.
no okay yeah. Now, do I believe he had like potential ideas? I do, but also Kevin Feige's smart. He
Oh
also
yeah.
realizes legally he couldn't speak to anybody about those characters until everything was signed off. Do I believe he had a plan? I do.
Mhm.
He's the king of contingency plans. So
Yeah.
while I think he had his 5-year plan that didn't include him, I think that he also had another 5-year plan that did include them
Mm-hmm.
and these characters here and there. And now that he does have them, he can take this 5-year plan, put that to the side, and bring this other one in that does include these characters here and there. The bottom line is he doesn't let the fans or anybody else, for that matter, persuade him or deter him from his vision. And I kind of felt like DC kind of wavered a little bit on that, but they've built their resolve.
Yeah, because like that's one thing I always hated when people. Okay, I get it. You know, you should listen to your fans and whatnot, but
To a certain extent, yeah.
yeah, you know, but sometimes the fans do not know what they want.
That's very true.
You know, like fans are just speaking from what they feel like they want and know. You know, like they don't know. Like sometimes the ideas and visions don't translate well on screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like we talk about screen and versus paper or even animation is a lot different. You know, like you had to take into a lot of considerations. You know, about looks, story elements, character elements, and whatnot, and sometimes even actors. You know, and there's a lot of things that goes on that they don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate it when studios fold and cave in to these ridiculous demands and rage fits. But I feel like as a studio or director, if you feel like your product is good and you know they're gonna like it, stick to your guns.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I feel like only people who are unsure about what they have cave in.
Yeah,
You know.
because and one example to that, I this is a controversial subject,
Mm-hmm.
but it's big in the superhero world. When they change the race of a character,
Mm-hmm.
this is big in the superhero world. So, when Idris Elba was cast as Heimdall,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody lost their minds. He's a Norse god. Heimdall's white. Why? And no, Kenneth Branagh was like, no, he's Heimdall. This is a Marvel movie. I cast him. I'm sticking to my guns. And then what happened? The movie came out, and he became a crowd favorite. People loved Idris as Heimdall. I mean, he was a small little secondary character, but people still loved him as Heimdall. And the situation with Commissioner Gordon. Casting Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon in the upcoming Batman movie. First of all, Jeffrey Wright is a phenomenal actor. He is a phenomenal actor. And anybody who has a problem with Jeffrey Wright being cast as Commissioner Gordon, I give you the task. Look at that man's filmography and give me one reason why he can't play Commissioner Gordon. Go to the comics and show me where in the comics. It is a requirement that Jim Gordon be a white man. Show me. Show me where there is a particular piece of his characterization that requires him to be white. And I'll shut up forever.
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't, because there's nothing in the comics that requires him to be a white man. Jeffrey Wright is one of the greatest actors of our time, and the fact that he got cast as Commissioner Gordon is amazing. And I look forward to seeing him as Commissioner Gordon. And then there was my final one. Because I did want to talk to you. I did want to get your opinions about, since we're talking about Marvel and DC. There was the story going around. There is no validity to it. By the way, nobody has backed this up. Nothing has been confirmed, and there have been no talks. But a story popped up. I say like last year. That was talking about Denzel Washington as Magneto. And so I remember looking at this YouTube video, and I forget the name of the YouTuber. But he was talking about it. He was like, Denzel is a phenomenal actor, and he's great. And if Magneto was originally black, I would love the idea. So automatically, you just shut the idea down because it's different. See, my whole thing about changing the race, I don't mind it if it makes sense.
Yeah.
See, changing Magneto's race makes sense because you can't make him an Auschwitz survivor.
Yeah.
And place him in our timeline anymore. Like, the youngest Auschwitz survivor would be in their 90s now. So you can't make him an Auschwitz survivor. You have to change his backstory in order to make him fit in today's society. So the question becomes, you have to give him a backstory where he sees the absolute worst of humanity. He sees the worst of humanity to the point where he hates and detests humans. Right? You have to put that in his backstory. That is key to Magneto's characterization.
Yeah.
So now the question becomes, well, what else in human history do we know of where we saw the worst of humanity? And it was like, oh yeah, the civil rights movement. And then comes it because and I tell you, for anybody who has any, and I'm going to end it here. For anybody who has any doubts that Denzel would not play a great Magneto, I implore you. The character of William Stryker is first introduced in William Stryker is and I'm going to look this up to make sure I get this name right, because it is an X-Men story. It's one of my favorite X-Men stories, as a matter of fact, and I am hoping that the MCU has the balls to do this story. Let me see. Yes. William Stryker is first introduced in the X-Men story arc, God Loves, Man Kills. And in the beginning of the story, there are two children. There are two children that are running at it's nighttime, and they're running in the night. And they're being chased by this group of mercenaries. And the mercenaries kill both of them. It's a brother and sister. Small children. They kill the children, and then they string them up by the chains of a swing at a play park in order to crucify them because the children were mutants. Now, they were hoping that the public would find the children first. Magneto finds the children first. Using his powers, he uncoils the chains. And while this is a comic book, you can see the rage on Magneto's face. You can see the pure emotion and rage on Magneto's face as he is gently taking these children's bodies and putting them on the ground and giving them a proper burial. Tell me tell me Denzel won't be able to convey that type of emotion. Tell me Denzel wouldn't be able to convey that type of rage when you see two children crucified just because they're mutants, and then he unhooks the chains using his abilities and gives them a proper burial because they're going up against William Stryker and the Purifiers in the storyline. He would be a phenomenal Magneto.
And also to give even more reasons why he would be a good fit, because originally Magneto was inspired by Malcolm X.
And who played Malcolm X? Denzel played Malcolm X. So I mean, yeah.
It's just a full circle.
Yeah, you know? it would be great. But like I said, there's no validity to it. There, to my knowledge, I mean, 9 times out of 10 years, there are X-Men talks behind the scenes, but none of that has been made public. So nobody knows what they plan on doing. But if they are considering it, that'd be amazing. Yes. To have him as Magneto, that'd be amazing.
I'd be all for it, you know, because like I even stated that argument once before with Theo and whatnot, you know. It was like on a Facebook post and whatnot, you know. And I stated that, like, yeah, like Magneto was based off of Malcolm X, you know, like, so ideally, like, what's wrong with making Magneto black when he's based off of a black guy? You know, and I said before, making him a Holocaust survivor makes no sense right now.
You can't,
because as we know, the Marvel universe is always follows our year and days, whatnot. You know.
And by the way, to those listening, for the first X-Men movie with Ian McKellen as Magneto, I do want to let y'all know they were pushing it in terms of making him a Holocaust survivor. By the fringes, literally by the fringes, they were able to get away with that one.
Yeah.
Because Ian McKellen being a Holocaust survivor, that movie took place in 2000.
Yep.
They just barely, by the skin of their teeth, were they able to get away with it then. There's no way that they could get away with it now. So I just wanted to fans of the original comic series, I love Magneto's story. Magneto is an amazing comic book character. But you cannot, and I can't stress this enough, you cannot make him a Holocaust Auschwitz survivor and put him in the MCU today. It will not work. And for those that and for those that oh well, you can give him anti-aging or something like that. How is that? Okay, so basically, you want to change him in order to keep him white. Give him a power he's never had to keep him white.
Yeah.
As opposed to just give him a slightly different backstory that fits with his characterization. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Yeah, like, but in all, I would definitely love. I mean, considering if there's no real truth or facts behind that story, you know, I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I would love to see it. You know, I would love to see it.
And I'm also looking forward, you know, to seeing what DC has to do in the future, because I've always been a DC fan. You know, I mean, I love Marvel going on too, but I've always been a DC guy.
Yeah.
You know, and the last few years, well, outside of the Nolan universe, Marvel has been kicking DC's butt.
Oh yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
But I mean, I do believe that DC is moving towards a better future. I'm looking like I'm excited to see what they put out. You know,
I agree. And their animated universe is great. I can't recommend. I cannot recommend Justice League Dark Apocalypse War enough. That movie was great.
And I feel like the animated movie has always been top notch.
Not always. Killing Joke was trash, but other than that, it was yeah.
Well, more often than not.
More often than not, yeah.
You know, but so I guess we're in it here. Like, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast again.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Like, you know, talking what we always talk, movies, and such. But for y'all's listening at home, you know, during this corona pandemic, let us know what your thoughts on Marvel, DC. Are y'all looking forward to both of the movies moving forward? And what your thoughts are? You know, do you think DC is gonna be able to reach that Marvel plateau, and will Marvel be able to move on to new heights as well? You know, but don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and give it a share too. You know, and also you can go and follow my other channel, Dream Cloud Films. You know, we put up different short films and productions over there on the channel. And I know Herman doesn't have no social media accounts, but I do. You know, you can follow me on Facebook, James H3 Films. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the same name. I try to keep it simple, you know. And you also can find Film Nerds on Facebook as well and Twitter. You know, go follow those accounts. Hit me up. let me know if there's any type of topics, movies you want us to cover and talk about. Be all for it. But till then, stay safe and keep on practicing your social distancing. Even though they're trying to, well, they open up the country soon, but just be smart. Still stay safe. Just because everything's open doesn't mean that the virus has gone away.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
I got 2 masks in my car.
Yeah, I need to put one. I need to put one in mine too. I keep forgetting.
I lost the one that the Teamsters gave us.
Mine's around here somewhere. I don't know where.
I lost that one, but I have 2 others, so it's fine. I want to know what they got. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to ask Kevin for one. I don't think he understood or didn't have none because he gave me his keys. I'm like,
How would he give you his keys?
Yeah, he gave me his keys. I'm in the office, and
what keys for?
I was looking around like I didn't see anything that stood out. I didn't want to go rummaging through the desk and like.
I'm not gonna rummage through the desk.
I just I peeked in the info box and didn't see anything. Like, okay, I guess they don't have none. But until then, we see you next time, and peace.